Maya had never felt this happy in her life. She sat at her small desk in her apartment, staring at the email on her laptop with wide eyes, her heart racing so fast that she thought it might burst. The words, "Congratulations, you have been promoted," glowed on the screen, and she read them again and again, just to make sure it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. She had finally done it. All the late nights, all the extra work, all the stress and sacrifices had paid off. She had earned the promotion she had dreamed about for years. Maya had always been ambitious. Ever since she started her job at the marketing firm 2 years ago, she had worked tirelessly to prove herself. She stayed late when her colleagues went home, volunteered for projects that no one wanted to do, and learned every new skill she could. Many times she had felt invisible, wondering if all her efforts were going unnoticed. But now her dedication had been recognized. She was officially moving up to a higher position, one that came with more responsibilities, more respect, and, of course, a bigger paycheck. Her chest swelled with pride as she leaned back in her chair. She could feel a smile spreading across her face that she couldn't hide even if she tried. This was her moment. She had worked so hard for it, and now finally she could celebrate. Maya felt light, almost like she was floating, as she thought about all the possibilities this promotion would bring. She could finally afford some of the things she had wanted for so long, maybe even take that trip she had been dreaming of. But more than anything, she felt recognized. Someone had noticed her effort, and that made all the sleepless nights worth it. Maya's excitement was almost too much to contain. She could barely sit still. She stood up and started pacing around her small living room, her mind buzzing with energy. She ran her hands through her hair, thinking about whom she should tell first. Her friends would be thrilled for her, of course, but she wanted the reaction to be perfect. She imagined their faces lighting up, their voices full of excitement and pride. It would feel so good to share this news with someone she cared about. She thought of her colleagues too. Some of them were friendly, some she barely knew, but she wondered if they would respect her more now. Maybe they would see her differently, maybe they would finally take her seriously. Maya had always been careful at work, making sure she did everything right, but she knew that news like this could change how people treated her. Maybe some would even be a little jealous. That thought made her laugh. It was silly, but she couldn't help it. She had earned this, and no one could take it away from her. Her phone buzzed on the table, pulling her out of her daydream. It was a message from her best friend, Liam. He always knew how to make her laugh, and she imagined him cheering her on as soon as she told him. She quickly typed back, "Hey, I have amazing news, can we talk?" and hit send. As she waited for his reply, her mind raced with all the details she wanted to share. She wanted to tell him exactly how it happened, how her boss had called her into the office, how her heart had been pounding as she listened to the announcement, and how proud she felt in that very moment. The minutes felt like hours, and Maya couldn't stop smiling. She went over the story in her head again and again. She remembered the way her boss had looked at her, with a serious expression at first, then breaking into a warm smile as he delivered the good news. She remembered shaking his hand, trying not to jump up and down in excitement right there in the office. She could almost feel the rush of happiness again, the way it had spread from her chest to the tips of her fingers. Maya thought about how her family would react too. Her parents had always encouraged her, but they had also warned her not to expect things to come easily. They would be so proud of her, she thought. She imagined her mother's voice, soft and full of pride, telling her how hard she had worked and how much she deserved it. She imagined her father smiling, clapping her on the back, saying, "I knew you could do it." The thought made her heart swell even more. Sharing good news with loved ones felt natural to her, but she was especially eager to tell Liam. She stood by the window and looked out at the busy city street below. People hurried past, carrying their own worries and joys, but she felt like she was in a bubble of happiness that no one could touch. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and orange, and Maya felt like the whole world was celebrating with her. She wanted to shout her excitement, to run down the street and tell everyone she saw, but she laughed at herself. That would probably get her some strange looks. Instead, she took a deep breath and tried to calm down. She sat back down at her desk and opened her journal, a habit she had kept since college. Writing always helped her organize her thoughts, and tonight she needed to capture this feeling before it slipped away. She wrote about the promotion, the moment her boss had congratulated her, the project she had completed to get there, and the dreams she had for the future. Every word was filled with excitement and hope. She even drew a small doodle of herself holding a trophy, laughing at the joy of the moment. Her phone buzzed again. Liam had replied, "Can't wait to hear. Call me." Maya's heart jumped. She picked up the phone immediately, smiling so wide she thought she might break into giggles. She couldn't wait to tell him, to hear his excitement, to feel that shared happiness. She pressed the call button and held the phone to her ear, listening to the dial tone as her anticipation grew. As the call connected, Maya felt like time had slowed down. Liam's voice came through, warm and cheerful, asking her what had happened. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, and then she began to speak. "You won't believe it, Liam. I got the promotion. I finally got it." There was a brief pause on the other end, then a loud cheer. "Maya, that is amazing. I'm so proud of you." Liam's excitement matched her own, and Maya felt a wave of happiness wash over her. She laughed and nearly shouted through the phone, telling him every detail, from the moment she opened the email to the way she had celebrated quietly in her office. Even as she talked, Maya's mind wandered to the future. She could see herself taking on new projects, leading a team, learning more every day, and growing even further in her career. The promotion was just the beginning. She felt unstoppable, like nothing could stand in her way. Her confidence soared, and for the first time in a long time, she truly believed in herself. By the time the call ended, Maya felt lightheaded with excitement. She flopped back into her chair, laughing and shaking her head at how incredible the day had been. She felt a little tired, but the happiness coursing through her veins was stronger than any exhaustion. She knew that she would remember this moment forever, the moment she had finally achieved something she had worked so hard for. As night fell and the city lights twinkled outside her window, Maya sat quietly for a few moments, letting the joy sink in. She didn't just feel happy, she felt proud, confident, and alive. Maya couldn't stop smiling as she sat on her couch, still holding her phone after the call with Liam. Her excitement had only grown, and she felt like the whole world should know about her promotion. She had waited for this moment for so long, and now it had finally arrived. For the first time in months, she felt completely free, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Every little detail of her life seemed brighter, happier, and more meaningful. She thought about Liam again. He had been her closest friend for years, someone she trusted more than anyone else. They had shared countless secrets, supported each other through bad days, and laughed together until their stomachs hurt. If there was anyone she wanted to celebrate with first, it had to be him. She imagined his face lighting up when she told him the news, and she felt a warmth spread through her chest. Maya dialed his number again, even though she had already spoken to him earlier. She wanted to share more details, to hear his reaction one more time. The phone rang and her heartbeat quickened. Finally, Liam picked up, his voice cheerful. "Hey Maya, how's it going? Still buzzing about your promotion?" "Yes," Maya replied, almost bouncing in her seat. "I can't believe it. I still feel like I'm dreaming. I wanted to tell you everything about it, because you've always been there for me." She took a deep breath and began recounting the story, step by step. The email, the call from her boss, and how she had felt when she learned she was officially promoted. Liam listened carefully, laughing and cheering at all the right moments. "Wow, Maya. That is incredible. I'm so proud of you," he said. His voice sounded enthusiastic, but there was a small hesitation in it, a pause that Maya didn't notice. She was too caught up in her own excitement to question anything. "I know, right?" Maya said, her voice full of joy. "All those late nights and stressful weeks finally paid off. I can't believe it actually happened. I feel like I can do anything now." She laughed, feeling like a balloon ready to float away from all the happiness inside her. Liam responded with a chuckle. "You've always been capable of this, Maya. You worked so hard, and it's about time someone noticed. I mean it, you deserve it." But Maya noticed, just for a fraction of a second, that his tone had a slightly different edge, something she couldn't quite place. It was subtle, like a shadow under the sunshine. But before she could think about it, Liam smiled again and quickly added, "Honestly, this is amazing news. We should celebrate soon." Maya's heart leapt. Celebration. That was exactly what she wanted. She imagined meeting Liam at their favorite cafe, sitting with him for hours, talking and laughing, sharing all her hopes and dreams for the future. She felt a rush of excitement, picturing herself telling him about the new projects she would lead, the new responsibilities she would take on, and all the plans she had for advancing her career even further. As she continued to describe the promotion in detail, she noticed Liam asking questions, seemingly curious about her work and the projects that led to her success. "So, what will your new role involve exactly?" he asked. "Will you be managing a team now?" "Yes," Maya said eagerly. "I'll be leading a small group of people, and I'll be responsible for some big projects. It's a lot of work, but I feel ready for it. I just can't stop smiling." She laughed, feeling light and free, as if happiness itself had taken over her body. Liam responded again, "That's really great, Maya. I'm happy for you. I really am." There was a slight pause this time, and Maya, in her excitement, didn't notice it at all. Her mind was too full of visions of celebrations and shared joy to consider anything else. She went on talking, telling him about the raise she would get, the new responsibilities, and even the small perks that came with her promotion. Liam listened politely, asking questions here and there, nodding in all the right places. Maya felt a sense of closeness she hadn't felt in a long time. Sharing her happiness with someone she trusted so much made the promotion feel even more real, even more magical. As the conversation continued, Maya realized she wanted to share even more personal details. "You know, Liam," she said, "I've been dreaming about this for years. I used to stay up at night thinking about how I could make it happen. And now it's here. I feel like my whole life is changing." Liam's response was supportive, almost like a cheerleader's voice. "Maya, you really worked for this. It's all yours. I'm so happy for you." But again there was that tiny hesitation in his voice. Maya didn't notice it. She was too caught up in her own happiness, too absorbed in the excitement of sharing the moment. For the first time, Maya felt truly understood. She had often hesitated to share her achievements, worried about reactions or envy. But now, speaking to Liam, she felt safe. She imagined telling more people, letting them share in her joy, maybe even celebrating with her family that weekend. She couldn't wait. The world seemed brighter, kinder, and full of possibilities. As they talked, Maya's excitement grew. "I'm thinking of taking on a really big project next month. If I do well, it could mean even more opportunities in the future." "Can you believe it?" she said, her voice trembling with eagerness. Liam replied, "Wow, that's ambitious, but I know you can do it. Seriously, Maya, I really admire your drive." But Maya once again didn't notice the faint edge in his words. His admiration seemed genuine, yet there was something hidden beneath the surface, something she couldn't see while wrapped in her own joy. They continued talking for almost an hour, with Maya describing every detail of her promotion, her plans, and her hopes for the future. She laughed, she shouted with excitement, and she even let herself imagine how proud her parents would be when she told them. Liam listened, occasionally chiming in with support, but every now and then, Maya caught glimpses of something she didn't recognize. A slight pause, a small sigh, a hesitation that went unnoticed. By the end of the call, Maya felt like she had shared a piece of her soul with Liam. She felt closer to him than ever, convinced that he was genuinely happy for her. She smiled, thanked him for listening, and promised that they would celebrate together soon. Hanging up the phone, she felt lighter than air, her heart full of joy and pride. Maya spent the next few hours thinking about her day. She imagined telling other friends, imagining their excitement, their applause, and their words of encouragement. She felt unstoppable. The promotion was more than just a title. It was proof that hard work paid off, that dedication mattered, and that dreams could come true. Still, even as she celebrated, Liam's faint hesitation lingered somewhere in the back of her mind. It was tiny, almost imperceptible, and she brushed it aside easily. After all, why would anyone feel anything but happiness for her? She trusted Liam completely, and that trust gave her courage to embrace her achievement fully. Maya went to bed that night with a huge smile on her face. She replayed the conversation over and over, imagining Liam's voice cheering her on. She felt loved, supported, and validated in ways she hadn't felt before. The excitement of the day carried her into a deep sleep, filled with dreams of success, celebrations, and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. Maya walked into the office on Monday morning feeling lighter than air. The weekend had been filled with excitement, celebrating her promotion quietly with her family and thinking about all the possibilities ahead. She had shared her news with Liam, and that alone had given her a sense of happiness she couldn't describe. She felt ready to take on her new role, lead her team, and tackle every project with energy and enthusiasm. But the moment she stepped through the glass doors of the office, something felt off. The receptionist greeted her as usual, but her smile seemed a little forced. A few colleagues in the hallway barely looked at her, walking past without their usual friendly nods. Maya shrugged it off. Maybe it was just Monday morning fatigue, she thought. As she reached her desk, she noticed her team whispering quietly in the corner. They stopped talking as soon as she approached, glancing at each other with small, strange smiles. "Good morning," Maya said brightly, trying to ignore the feeling of tension creeping over her. Her words were met with short nods and faint smiles, nothing like the warmth she was used to. During the first team meeting, Maya noticed subtle changes in how people interacted with her. Her boss had called her to discuss her new responsibilities, but some of the team members seemed unusually quiet, avoiding eye contact. One of her colleagues, Jenny, who had always been friendly, made a small comment in passing. "I hope you can handle all the extra work. It sounds like a lot." Maya smiled, thinking it was just concern, but the tone had a hint of something she couldn't quite place. As the day went on, the subtle tension grew. People stopped stopping by her desk for casual chats. Emails that used to get quick replies now took hours. When she tried to discuss ideas with her teammates, she noticed short answers, curt responses, and occasional interruptions. Even the small compliments she used to receive for her work seemed to disappear. Maya started to feel confused. She had worked so hard for this promotion and she wanted to succeed. She had thought her colleagues would be happy for her, maybe even supportive. But now something had changed. The warmth she had always felt in the office seemed to be replaced with distance, and she didn't understand why. The first real sign came during a meeting with her boss. Maya had prepared a detailed plan for a new project, confident that it would impress. She laid out every step, every goal, and every deadline. But instead of the usual encouragement, her boss asked questions that seemed to question her ability. "Are you sure you can handle this on your own?" he asked, looking at her team. "It's a big responsibility." Maya felt a small knot form in her stomach. She had expected support, not doubt. She smiled politely and assured him she could manage, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. After the meeting, she overheard a few whispers from her team in the hallway. The words weren't clear, but she caught fragments like, "promotion, fast, she thinks she's better." Her heart sank. She had been careful not to boast about her promotion at work, sharing the news only with Liam. How had it spread so quickly? Maya began to realize that her private happiness had somehow become public knowledge. Each small comment, each cold glance, made her think more clearly about what was happening. She was no longer just Maya, the hardworking teammate. She had become Maya, the promoted one, and apparently, that had made some people uncomfortable. Over the next few days, things grew worse. Her colleagues started to question her decisions, offering advice in ways that felt more like criticism than support. At first, she tried to brush it off, convincing herself that they were only trying to help. But when she noticed subtle undermining comments during meetings, she began to see the pattern. People were competing with her, testing her, and maybe even hoping she would fail. It hit her during lunch one day when she overheard two colleagues talking in hushed voices. She wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but it was impossible not to hear. "I can't believe she got promoted so quickly," one of them said. "Do you think she really earned it? I mean, she's new to leading a team. What if she messes up?" Maya felt a cold wave of disappointment. She had worked hard, sacrificed her nights and weekends, and done everything she could to earn her promotion. And now, instead of support, she was facing doubt and envy. Her happiness, once private and safe, had somehow become a target for gossip and judgment. She spent the rest of the day quietly reflecting. She thought back to the moment she shared her good news with Liam. She had trusted him completely, assuming he would celebrate her achievement without hesitation. She had never imagined that sharing something so joyful could lead to this kind of attention. Negative attention that made her feel small instead of proud. By midweek, the tension was palpable. Small things that never bothered her before now felt sharp. A colleague who used to laugh at her jokes now only smiled politely. Invitations to casual chats or coffee breaks stopped. Even her boss, who had congratulated her, seemed more cautious, checking her work carefully and pointing out minor mistakes. It was exhausting to feel constantly judged. Maya began to piece it together slowly. Her promotion, something she had dreamed of for years, had inadvertently sparked jealousy and competition among her co-workers. The excitement she had shared with Liam had somehow reached the office, spreading like wildfire. She couldn't understand why, but the evidence was clear. People were comparing themselves to her, questioning her abilities, and subtly trying to challenge her authority. She felt a mix of sadness and frustration. Why couldn't people just be happy for her? She had earned this achievement fair and square. She had never tried to overshadow anyone, and she had always supported her colleagues. But now the environment she had loved, the workplace she had thrived in, felt tense and uncertain. Maya realized that she had underestimated the power of sharing good news. Joy, she now understood, could be fragile. When shared without caution, it could trigger envy, jealousy, and unintended consequences. She had been open, trusting, and full of excitement, but she had not anticipated that her happiness might be received with anything other than celebration. She started observing her colleagues more carefully. Small gestures, slight pauses in conversation, and subtle changes in tone all pointed to the same thing. Her promotion had made her a target, even if unintentionally. People who had been friendly were now distant, and the supportive environment she had once enjoyed seemed replaced by quiet competition. One afternoon, Maya overheard someone whisper her name while passing by. The words were soft, but she caught enough to know it was about her promotion. She thinks she's the best now, wonder how long it lasts. She felt a pang of hurt, a mix of disbelief and disappointment. The happiness she had felt just a few days ago was now tinged with caution. She realized she had to be careful, not because she had done anything wrong, but because others' feelings could affect her environment and her peace of mind. By the end of the week, Maya had made a quiet decision. She would continue to do her best, but she would be more selective about sharing her achievements. Trust, she realized, was fragile, and even the people she considered friends could contribute, without meaning to complications she hadn't anticipated. Her joy was precious and she had to protect it. As she sat at her desk on Friday evening, Maya thought about the weekend ahead. She would take time to relax, to focus on herself, and to reflect on her experiences. She would celebrate her promotion in ways that brought her peace and happiness, without worrying about the judgments or envy of others. It was a lesson learned the hard way, but an important one. Sometimes sharing your good news could lead to consequences you didn't expect. Maya closed her laptop, leaning back in her chair. She felt tired, but she also felt stronger. She had seen a side of people she hadn't noticed before, and while it had been difficult, it had taught her an important lesson. Trust and joy were gifts, and they had to be handled carefully. She would continue to shine, continue to lead her team, and continue to work hard, but she would do so with a quiet confidence, a wisdom born from experience. By the time she left the office that evening, Maya's mind was full of reflection. She walked out into the cool evening air, feeling the city around her buzzing with life. The lights of the streets shimmered, but her thoughts were inward, thinking about how to navigate the days ahead. She knew that sharing good news was a double-edged sword. It could bring celebration, but it could also spark envy, doubt, and competition. Maya promised herself she would remember this lesson. She would continue to work hard, continue to celebrate her successes, but she would be careful about whom she trusted with her happiness. The office, she realized, was a place of ambition and drive, and sometimes, those traits came with unexpected challenges. As she walked home, Maya felt a mixture of emotions. Sadness, yes, but also determination. She had earned her promotion, and no one could take that away from her. She would face the challenges ahead with courage, learning to navigate jealousy, distance, and competition with grace. And most importantly, she would protect the joy she had worked so hard to achieve. Maya sat at her desk, staring blankly at her computer screen. The hum of the office felt louder than usual, as if every whisper and quiet conversation was amplified just for her. Her mind kept returning to the strange behavior of her co-workers, the hushed voices, the subtle undermining comments, and the distant looks she had received all week. At first, she had tried to ignore it, believing it was just office stress or coincidence. But now the pattern was too clear to dismiss. A thought struck her suddenly, like a small spark that quickly grew into a flame. Maybe Liam had told someone. It had seemed impossible at first. Liam had been her closest friend for years, someone she trusted completely. They had shared secrets, dreams, and small personal victories. He had always been there for her, celebrating her successes with genuine happiness. But now, faced with the tension at work and the whispers she had overheard, Maya began to wonder if sharing her good news with him had been a mistake. She felt a cold knot form in her stomach. Could it really be possible that Liam, someone she trusted more than anyone else, had let her secret slip? Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up her phone. She knew she needed to confront him, not in anger but to understand what had happened. Maya? Liam's voice was warm and cheerful as he answered the call, but Maya didn't feel any warmth this time. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Liam, I need to ask you something, she said, her voice tight. Did you tell anyone at work about my promotion? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Maya could hear a faint rustle, as if Liam was shifting in his chair. Well, I thought it was okay, he said finally. I told a couple of people. I didn't think it would be a big deal. I thought it was harmless. Maya's heart sank. She felt a sharp ache in her chest, a mix of shock, betrayal, and hurt. She had trusted Liam completely, believing that he would celebrate her news privately and with joy. But instead, he had shared it with others, not realizing, or maybe not thinking, how it could affect her. The very person she had counted on to protect her happiness had inadvertently caused the tension she was now experiencing at work. Liam, you didn't think it would matter? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Do you understand what's happening now? People are questioning me, whispering about me, even doubting my abilities. I trusted you, and now it feels like everyone knows before I even get a chance to manage it myself. I'm sorry, Maya, Liam said, his voice soft and hesitant. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just thought it was exciting news and I wanted to share it. I didn't think anyone would react like this. Maya felt a mixture of anger and sadness. She wanted to shout, to demand that he understand the consequences of his actions, but instead she took a deep breath. She realized that Liam hadn't acted out of malice. He had simply underestimated the impact of sharing her private joy. Sometimes, even the people closest to you can make mistakes even if they mean well. She leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes for a moment. The hurt was still there, but clarity began to emerge from the cloud of disappointment. She understood now that happiness, especially personal achievements, could be fragile. Sharing it was not always safe even with those you loved and trusted. People's reactions could be unpredictable, influenced by envy, fear, or their own insecurities. Maya, I really am sorry, Liam said again. I didn't think it would cause this much trouble. I just got excited for you and I wanted to share it. I know, Maya said softly. Her voice had calmed, but it carried a weight of realization. It's not that you were trying to hurt me, Liam, but I've learned something important. Not everyone can celebrate your successes without feeling threatened or envious. Sometimes even friends can unintentionally make things harder. Liam was quiet for a moment, as if he was thinking deeply about her words. I understand, he said finally. I really didn't mean to betray your trust. I'll try to be more careful in the future. Maya sat at her desk on Monday morning, the office quiet as most people settled into their work. The week before had been challenging, filled with whispers, subtle criticism, and moments that reminded her how fragile happiness could be when shared too freely. She had spent the weekend reflecting, thinking carefully about what had happened, and deciding how to move forward. One thing was clear: she needed to protect her joy and focus on her own growth, no matter what anyone else thought or said. The first thing Maya did was make a plan. She would continue to work hard, embrace her new responsibilities and push herself to succeed. But she would be more selective about sharing personal achievements. Not because she wanted to hide her successes, but because she had learned that not everyone could handle someone else's happiness without letting envy creep in. Her joy was hers first, and she would treat it as something precious to be nurtured and protected. Maya started small. She focused on her tasks, taking careful steps in her new role as a team leader. She planned projects methodically, checked her work thoroughly, and set clear goals for herself. Instead of seeking validation from others, she began to measure her progress against her own expectations. Every completed project, every satisfied client, and every personal improvement became her source of pride. She realized that her achievements did not need constant acknowledgement from others to be meaningful. Her coworkers noticed the change in her. Maya still greeted them warmly, participated in meetings and offered support where it was needed, but she no longer shared details about her accomplishments freely. Instead, she led by example, demonstrating competence, dedication, and confidence through her actions. Slowly, the tension that had built up began to ease. People respected her abilities, even if they didn't fully understand or acknowledge the personal victories behind them. Maya also began to set stronger boundaries. She learned to say no when needed, to protect her time and energy, and to keep her private life private. She realized that boundaries were not walls meant to push people away, but shields to preserve her happiness and mental clarity. For the first time, she felt fully in control of her emotions and her life. She could celebrate successes, small or large, without worrying about who might judge or envy her. One afternoon, after completing a challenging project that she had handled entirely on her own, Maya felt a surge of pride. The project had been complex, with tight deadlines and high expectations, and she had managed every detail perfectly. Her satisfaction came not from praise from others, but from knowing she had done her best and achieved what she had set out to do. For a moment, she sat quietly at her desk, simply letting herself enjoy the feeling of accomplishment. That evening, Maya decided to celebrate quietly. She went home, brewed a cup of her favorite tea, and sat by the window in her small apartment, watching the city lights shimmer in the distance. She took a deep breath, savoring the warmth of the tea in her hands and the sense of calm in her heart. She allowed herself to smile, to feel the joy fully, and to acknowledge the hard work and dedication that had brought her here. This celebration was private, personal, and meaningful in a way that no external validation could match. Maya reflected on the lessons she had learned over the past weeks. She realized that happiness could be fragile, especially when shared indiscriminately. People's reactions were unpredictable, and even well-meaning friends could sometimes unintentionally cause disappointment or stress. But she also understood that these experiences were opportunities for growth. She had learned how to protect her joy, how to navigate relationships with care, and how to appreciate her own efforts without relying on others for approval. He remembered Liam, her close friend, and the conversation that had revealed the consequences of sharing too freely. She still trusted him, but she understood now that trust did not mean full transparency about every personal success. People could care deeply for her and still make mistakes. Maya decided that she would continue to value her relationships, but she would do so wisely, with awareness and discernment. As the days passed, Maya noticed changes in herself. She felt more confident, calmer, and more in control. Work challenges no longer felt overwhelming because she had learned to rely on her own judgment and abilities. She celebrated small victories privately, like finishing a difficult task ahead of schedule or receiving a positive response from a client. Each moment of success strengthened her sense of self and her understanding that she didn't need constant recognition from others to feel proud. Maya also discovered joy in the small, everyday moments. She found pleasure in completing her tasks efficiently, in helping her team succeed without expecting anything in return, and in quietly acknowledging her personal growth. She realized that happiness could be simple and internal, not dependent on others' reactions. By focusing on her own progress, she had learned to enjoy life more fully, appreciating every step she took toward her goals. One evening, after successfully leading a team meeting where her ideas were implemented without issue, Maya returned to her apartment feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. She poured herself a glass of her favorite juice and sat comfortably on her sofa, thinking about the week's accomplishments. She didn't call anyone, didn't post on social media, and didn't seek praise. Instead, she simply allowed herself to feel proud. The sense of quiet triumph was more fulfilling than any external recognition could have been. Maya smiled as she thought about the lessons of the past weeks. She had learned to balance trust with caution, to celebrate achievements privately when necessary, and to protect her happiness without isolating herself from others. She understood that personal success was a gift, one to cherish and nurture carefully. By keeping certain victories private, she could safeguard her joy while still sharing it meaningfully when the time was right. Over time, Maya noticed that her approach had a positive impact on her work life. She was more focused, less distracted by office politics, and more efficient in completing tasks. Her colleagues began to respect her naturally, observing her abilities and dedication rather than hearing about her successes secondhand. She had learned that actions often spoke louder than words and that genuine respect came from consistent effort and competence, not announcements or declarations. Maya also felt lighter emotionally. She no longer carried the weight of worrying about how others would react to her happiness. She had learned to set boundaries gently but firmly, to share selectively, and to appreciate her own progress. The freedom that came from internal validation allowed her to enjoy her life more fully, embracing each moment without fear of judgment or envy. One quiet Saturday morning, Maya achieved a small personal victory that brought her joy. She completed an online course she had been working on for months, mastering skills that would help her advance further in her career. Instead of announcing it to everyone, she celebrated in her own way. She made herself a cup of coffee, sat at her favorite chair by the window, and allowed herself to smile proudly. She reflected on the knowledge she had gained, the discipline she had shown, and the growth she had achieved. The celebration was quiet, private, and deeply satisfying. Maya realized that she didn't need applause or recognition from anyone to feel proud of herself. She had learned to enjoy success without depending on others, to value her own achievements, and to protect her happiness wisely. The sense of calm and confidence she felt was stronger than any fleeting praise could have provided. As the sun set, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and orange, Maya felt a sense of peace wash over her. She had learned difficult lessons, faced disappointment, and navigated challenges that had tested her trust and patience. But through it all, she had grown stronger, wiser, and more self-aware. She understood that joy, when handled carefully, could be a source of lasting strength rather than temporary excitement. Maya leaned back, sipping her coffee, and smiled. She had achieved something far more important than a promotion or a completed project. She had learned how to protect her happiness, appreciate her own efforts, and navigate life with quiet confidence. She had learned that personal success was a treasure to be cherished, not broadcast indiscriminately. The night settled around her apartment, and Maya felt content. She had discovered that celebrating quietly, reflecting deeply, and valuing her own journey could bring a sense of fulfillment far beyond external validation. She had become wiser, more cautious, and more confident in herself. And most importantly, she had found a way to enjoy her achievements fully, in her own private, meaningful way. Maya smiled again, thinking about the small victories she had achieved, both big and small. She knew the lessons she had learned would stay with her for a lifetime. Success, she realized, was not just about recognition. It was about growth, self-respect, and the joy of knowing that she had done her best. And now, she could celebrate that joy quietly, privately, and completely, savoring every moment with peace and pride.